We officially have 3 weeks of data for fantasy. That means it is time to pull out the panic meter and talk about struggling players that just aren't living up to preseason expectations, what it means this season, and specifically what it means for Dynasty. So let's take a look. Let's dive in. We have 5 names here. The first is Treylon Burks of the Tennessee Titans. Through 3 weeks, Treylon Burks has struggled. I think that's a bit of an understatement. He has 0 top 50 finishes amongst wide receivers through 3 weeks. It's just not good. What he has put on the field has drastically been below expectations. A player we expected to see take a leap coming out of year 1, right? He puts up a 17.6% target share. He's banged up but semi-productive when he's out there playing with backup quarterbacks, and really everything went wrong. So now you have Ryan Tannehill. You have a true number 1 in DeAndre Hopkins alongside him. Things should get better for Treylon Burks. That has not happened, right? We talked about the fantasy finishes, but on top of that, his target share has taken a hit. He is down to 15.6%. I don't think anybody really anticipated him being the wide receiver 1 alongside DeAndre Hopkins, but I sure as hell did not expect him to lose target share. I did not expect him to drop, below that 17% mark. He has not taken a leap. It actually looks as if he's regressing to some extent. Everything you expected to happen for Treylon Burks has not happened. He was a player, while I had some optimism, I wasn't actively buying heading into this season because the route running was so poor. The situation looked iffy. And basically it's all culminating in a player that is losing value quickly. So if we have to put him on a panic meter scale, 1 to 10 we're going to use, he's at a 9 out of 10 because he is a player I want off my teams. I don't have him on any Dynasty rosters anymore, but if you do, I am looking to sell him because if this goes on for 2-3 more weeks, you're looking at a guy that loses all value. Now, moving on to a player I think most people are interested in at this point in his career, it is Justin Fields, and I'm a Bears fan, so this is going to hit very close to home, but let's just look at what has happened since the start of the season. The Bears are once again the worst team in the NFL. Luke Getsy has proven to be a terrible, terrible play caller, play designer. The defense is bad. The weapons have not elevated Justin Fields. And now we are looking at a team that is going to be drafting a quarterback, most likely in 2024. For Dynasty, what does that mean for Justin Fields? It feels as if his time as a starter is up. At least as a potential franchise quarterback, it is slowly ticking down, right? I think this season, Justin Fields will end up being fine for fantasy, right? He hasn't performed to his expectations, but he's still on pace for over 600 rushing yards. That typically should balance out and provide value for fantasy. Like, he's going to be a QB1, maybe not a top 5 guy or a top 1 guy like I thought he could have been this year, but ultimately a top 12 quarterback nonetheless. It's just, he's become a redraft play. He's not a dynasty play in my eyes, at least. So I'm not trying to trade for him. If anything, I'll take a 2024 first if possible. I don't think you can get that at this point because the panic meter, for me, for everybody, it's a 10 out of 10. This is threat level midnight. It is as bad as it could possibly be. Justin Fields is not the long-term starter in Chicago. He may never be a long-term starter in the NFL. Now, player number 3, it is another sophomore wide receiver, and it is Jahan Dotson. Jahan Dotson has not been good this year. With all the hype coming into the season, with Terry McLaurin getting hurt right before week 1, it appeared as if Jahan Dotson was about to take a leap. Through 3 weeks, that has clearly not been the case. It has been underwhelming across the board, and on top of it, his target share is sitting at 16%. He has not become Sam Howell's favorite target. He has not become a player that is pushing Terry McLaurin as the true number 1. Basically, he's exactly who he was last year. He's become this type of low-usage slot wide receiver. And honestly, that's not what we want for Jahan Dotson. Like, I don't mind seeing him in the slot because he's an elite route runner. He has shown that time and time again, and we're seeing it in his early season charting on reception perception. Through weeks 1 and 2, he had an 80% success rate versus press coverage and a 76.9% win rate versus man coverage. So he is still cutting dudes up, and in the slot, he should be able to put up significantly larger numbers, except right now there looks like there's growing pains in Washington. Sam Howell is in his 4th start ever, now about to be his 5th start. Eric Bieniemy with a new offense, first time calling plays. There's things going on here that are kind of outside of Jahan Dotson's control. The route running is what saves his profile for me, right? If he was having Treylon Burks levels of success, I'd be 10 times more concerned than I am. But that type of route running typically translates to production. So I'm going to save that, right, as his saving grace here. The panic meter, I'm at a 6 out of 10 because, look, I want the target share to be higher. I want the production to be better. The target rate needs to rise. The only reason we're not at an 8, a 9, a 10 is the route running, because good route runners produce in fantasy over their careers. It is going to happen. I truly believe that. So I'm not on a full-blown sell. I'm not buying. I'm holding Jahan Dotson and just praying the route running wins out and eventually leads to the points and turns him into the player I think we all expect him to be. Sticking with the Washington Commanders, we have Antonio Gibson, and I fell for Antonio Gibson this year. Eric Bieniemy's there. You should have a better offense with Sam Howell than Taylor Heineke. You know, the Jerick McKinnon role was there for the taking for Antonio Gibson, and he has 16 opportunities in 3 weeks. It has not been good. The only thing saving Antonio Gibson, the only thing that is kind of a positive is coming out of week 3, he played the most snaps of the season because they were trailing most of, if not the entire game against the Buffalo Bills. That is where Antonio Gibson is going to thrive, right? In these super negative game scripts, that's where he can get on the field and play. I don't think you can sell him because he's been terrible and nobody wants to really buy into just terrible, but he's a handcuff. If Brian Robinson goes down, then maybe we get the breakout of Antonio Gibson. But if we're banking on that, he becomes the same player as like a Rico Dowdle, who we just talked about on 5 moves to make, who should be rostered. So when I'm talking panic, we're at an 8 out of 10 because he has a role. The role just happens to suck in this offense. So Antonio Gibson, I have led you astray. I am sorry. It is not happening with Antonio Gibson in 2023 and beyond.
Hey guys, sorry to interrupt this video, but I wanted to let y'all know about our YouTube memberships on this channel. If you want extra bonus content from Justin or myself, access to my prospect database for all rookies since 2001, access to our exclusive Discord channel, as well as badges and emojis, then check out the YouTube memberships using the link in the description down below. The bonus content tier is what you're looking for more DLF on YouTube. Thanks for checking it out, guys, and we'll get back to this amazing video.
And now to our final player, Dameon Pierce with the Houston Texans. The production has been bad. It has been so terrible. And he finally finds the end zone in week 3, scores a touchdown, gets over double-digit points. That's great. But basically what we had feared all offseason is coming true, and that is Dameon Pierce is not a workhorse back. It was never going to happen. It didn't happen in college. It happened last year out of necessity. And basically Devin Singletary and somehow Mike Boone have eaten up enough work that Dameon Pierce is now a 50% snap share kind of guy, a 60% opportunity kind of guy. The saving grace here, right, to kind of offset that production disappointment, we'll call it, is the offensive line is so hurt. It is completely banged up across the board, and that is obviously hurting Dameon Pierce's fantasy production. The Texans are more competitive than I think a lot of us expected. They honestly are solid, and they just beat the Jags. So they're going to be in games, I think, more than I anticipated, and that should save Dameon Pierce's workload. And once that offensive line gets healthy, he'll have a path to be a top 20 running back just because of the sheer number of carries he's going to take. So I'm not at an 8 out of 10, a 9 out of 10 in terms of panic. Let's call it a 5 out of 10 because he's getting work. He is getting enough touches to be relevant. They just need to be, 1, closer to the end zone, and 2, behind an offensive line that's healthy. I think if you want to sell him and can get a first, that's fine. But ultimately holding him as a contender is going to be okay because he has enough usage that he should give you enough RB2 weeks to help you win some matchups. All right, guys, that is all we have for you. If you have questions, you have comments, drop them down below. Again, remember, check out that DLF YouTube membership. And as always, thank you guys for watching, and we will see you next time.